The Horsemen. A shadowy horse and carriage appears in your peripheral vision, and a piece of parchment manifests inside of your hands. You were invited to fulfill a great destiny, says the ink, forming on the soggy page. You were chosen because you have no allegiances or ties to anyone and are willing to take on great responsibility. Your objective is to answer the call and prove your worthiness against others, just as worthy. So I knew that this event was designed to give anyone who wants to kind of be that, go off and do something unknown, to kind of any players who are on that lone wolf vibe, if they want to kind of refresh and restart and take on something, if they were kind of aimless, such as a poke turner, this would kind of give you some direction. So the players that would pretty much join this would be ones that are pretty much signing up to get involved with something. In the back of my head, I knew that they would be forming their own squad, that would be part of something much bigger. I knew that they would ultimately be protecting children. So there's nothing evil about being in charge of protecting someone. When you look at the necrofiends in the grand scheme, they want the planet to exist and not be destroyed by the virgin tears. And they want whoever becomes these champions to protect the three Aura Vitae children, Amelia, Serenity, and Rose. So the people that joined this event was Looper Ken, Pope Turner, Aerold, and Geneva. Someone asks, the Gygas armor is meant for those chosen to protect the Endless. Correct. What's the Endless? Are those three characters now just puppets? If so, who is pulling the strings? So that's a good question. So the Endless is something that kind of, just like everything else, it starts off as something that kind of it transforms into something else. Initially, the instigator was obviously a lich, an undead lich, and that introduced other liches. And I lumped Deathtude along with him so that they were really working together. And then you learn that there's this whole conglomerate of liches that are like undead scientists, and they're from another galaxy. You know, it's sci-fi at the end of the day. The Endless, and then when you throw in the Fist of the Endless and the Emperor of the Endless, and then you have Deathtude, you have the Instigator trying to slow down the progress of reviving the Emperor of the Endless, and then you have Deathtude trying to revive the Emperor of the Endless. I made it so that they are the Endless, that he's the Emperor of. So the Endless has pretty much become the name of what these beings, these necrofiends, are. The Endless are these liches that live forever. So the Endless are this undead necrofiend race from a whole nother star system, and they're known for being highly intelligent and masters of undead, dark, necrotic magic and science. So that's what the Endless are. You could even say that they are an elite group of liches or the undead necrofiends. So when you have, you see Looper Ken who has had enough with All this, he's upset that they lost the fist. He was actually against the idea of taking the fist to give it to Makai. He actually wanted to sit on the fist and protect it. So he had enough, and he went back to Haven. And he's having a rough time. He's kind of in a drunken stupor. He's reaching the end of his rope. And that's just me trying to kind of lay the path to when he decides to make a choice to kind of take a leap of faith. Okay? So Looper, what is your character's mood? Looper put confused, blind, and pretty much of the opinion of, well, I wanted to bury and hide this thing, and now these fuckwits gave it to anarchy. Typical. He says Looper didn't trust these people. He didn't think they were bad, but he assumed making things more complicated would end up in some idiot getting the glove. And lo and behold, they did. Looper wanted to bury the damn thing, not take it to Nebu, and in going along, it all fell apart. He isn't happy. He's more than frustrated with everyone. In effect, he told them so. Looper has no interest in helping anyone anymore at the moment. These people are obsessed with big moves. These people are obsessed with big moves and games, and he just wants it all to be shoved back into Pandora's box. He won't go along with any more harebrained ideas. I think it would be a good idea for Looper to get a visit from the Horsemen, whether it's real or not. He has no real allegiances, and it would be interesting to have him set on a path that either gives him some real purpose or just puts him through the grinder even more. Thought it might be interesting to bring Soak back, the god of chaos, Noxious Wong, that he was. Be interesting if the god were real in some form and was connected to Noxious. I've been brought the god back. There was a whole episode where it's when Drav first recruited Noxious Wong. It was when Noxious Wong, when the Gamma Calamity happened, Noxious Wong turned into Soak in front of everybody and burned the whole club down. And then that's when Drav came and recruited him. So Soak is there. But no, I agree with Looper. Looper is at the end of his trail. He's kind of, and that's why Looper was in the bar. He saw that news clip of the Wang gang causing destruction, and he's like kind of drunk, and he's like, you know what, had enough of this. So he goes out there, and it's really suicide if you think about it, because again, Noxious Wong, he's Soak, the God King, in his head, and he has all these crazy fire powers, and he has his whole crew with him, and Looper is going up to them alone. So it's, in a way, it's suicide, and that's when he's approached by the Horsemen, or the Visitor, who takes him back to where they go. Same with Poke Turner. He's aimless, he's guideless. His run-in with Saoirse in the Arvite, it made him feel weird, and he's kind of rethinking his path. And he's kind of been aimless this whole time. A lot of the things that he's done has just been to get involved and like make people's lives miserable. So he decides to go for a walk in the town on foot for the first time, and he's just looking for some excitement. And then so he goes with the Visitor, and then Harold, he split apart from his brother for the first time in a long time. He's being chased, and he knows that he's a threat because he is he's possessed, and he's afraid that demon inside of him could hurt more people. So he actually considers going to the Frontier District just so he can be killed by the radiation and the monsters there. But the Visitor comes and takes him away as well, and they all meet in this dark underground cavern graveyard, and they are introduced. They see each other there. They're all waiting, but Looper, with his super night vision, he sees that there's someone else there, and the person that he identifies is Geneva, the Queen of Darkness, who is pretty much like their handler. To answer your question about who's pulling the strings and if there are puppets, to an extent, they are kind of mesmerized by the darkness. The darkness is feeding off of this dark place that they're in at the moment, and is kind of making their actions feel like it's the right actions. One of the masked men is in charge of Geneva. Geneva is like that masked man's apprentice, similar to how Rezanok was the apprentice of Deathtude, similar to how Corrigan is the apprentice of that other masked man, similar to how Sheila Scorn is an apprentice, or more so a cohort of the other masked man. Geneva is the handler of these who will take on the Gygas armor, and she kind of sways them with darkness and gives them power, and the power is in this dark Gygas suit that pretty much bridges the gap between their woes and their satisfaction. So that's why it kind of becomes more like a drug, and they never felt complete like this before. The suit completes them, at least up here in their head, but it's really the darkness just kind of not tainting them, because darkness is not always evil. I more so feel it is just a substance, an addiction. So they're not puppets. They're not puppets. I would even go as far as to say that if anyone wanted to go against it, awesome. That would be great, because what's going to happen is if you go against it, who's your enemy now? The Geneva, the Necrofiends, the Endless. But it would be cool to have maybe one of the champions defect. You know what I mean? Because if one of you, or not all of you, obviously some of you might want to keep the armor and see where this goes. You're now at odds with one of your peers. Which is why I kind of went out my way to say that this Gygas armor is pretty much a part of you now. It is like an addiction. So it would be interesting to see which ones just want to keep the armor and which ones would kind of go against it all. But everything is open to you. You're not forced into anything. This is merely an event that just spiced up your arc pretty much, because now you're tied to so many things. You have a little responsibility, especially when I tell you what the rewards are for having the suits. Another question was, does Nuad have the powers of the fist, or does he have more power? Which is a good question. So Nuad he's detached from the fist. It was disenchanted by way of Selena Rend, and his soul was pulled out from the ritual and put into Rezanok and Nam-Ki's child, which is even more powerful in various capacities, because you got to remember that this child is born of Rezanok, who is something that Deathtude created, and then with the power of Nam-Ki inside of it as well, it create the power of this child, which we do not know yet, but you can assume that it is the perfect and ultimate G-type. So Nuad, if I had to bet, Nuad, the Emperor of the Endless, would much rather be in the body of Nam-Ki's child than a shell of himself in a magic fist. So no, Nuad doesn't have the power of the fist. The fist is a fraction of his power, but all that was stripped by Selena, and he's in a better position now. He's young, but he's in a better position. Are there perks that come with being Nuad's protector? I'm going to say no, but this is an opportunity for you. Like, for example, by Geneva being the handler of the others, and she is now responsible for caring and raising the emperor, the soon emperor. This is a chance for you to prove yourself to Nuad. And I'm sure between him and Deftooth, you'll be rewarded, especially when he becomes older and can start talking and acting. He'll remember these things that you, Looper, Poke Turner, and Errol did. At the end of the day, you are protecting a child that is possessed. So there's not a lot of evil in that. So just keep that in mind. But Nuad is in itself a whole nother faction, and he would reward you for your loyalty. So I just want to put that out there as well. So, there's not really much to say about that. You were Poke Turner, Looper, Ken, Errol, Looper, Looper Ken, his biggest thing was not being able to save the people in the Western Ward Constabulary. I mean, in the 13th District, in the Western Ward. He's always been dealing with all this crime, but there's so much corruption that it kind of deterred him from fully taking care of it. And he's not really off for the G types either in Heroes. So he was always in a spot, but now he can do something himself. It's interesting to see what he does with that. All of them have their mind. It's just their perception is a little skewed in regards to their responsibilities. It's just a little bit of darkness and it feels right, but they're not like under mind control or anything like that. So keep that in mind. Poke Turner, this is more so just fun for you. And, you have some responsibility here, and we just want to see what you do with that. As far as character development, we just, you got to find something and latch onto it, and go from there. Errol, you looked at this armor as having, finally giving you some power to be able to have some damn control over your demonic self inside Drakion. And this is a step in that direction. So this armor kind of gives you some more mental stability. But as far as rewards go, Looper, Geneva, Poke, Errol, you all get the Gygus armor. So for Looper, you have the Gygus armor. It gives you a +1 rank shift when you're in the passive, natural +1 rank shift when you're in the presence of any of those Aura Vitae children, Rose, Serenity, and Amelia. Whenever each of you are actually in the possession, in the proximity or in the presence of these children, you're stronger. Each of your suits are equipped for all mundane activities, any activities, whether little tools, utensils, weapons, stuff like that. Just think of like Spawn suit or Iron Man. Like you're equipped with the basic things your suit can provide you. Looper Ken, the keyword that you get is heart. You attach the keyword heart to anything, and that's a very, very, very open and core keyword that you can make use of. Geneva, you get the keyword lightning, and the reason for that is because I alluded to, you actually have the Gygus armor that Par Gygus was equipped with when he was alive. It's been bestowed upon you. Lightning is the keyword. Darkness and lightning combined, whatever, if you attach the keyword to whatever, lightning is a very powerful keyword. Poke Turner, you get the keyword darkness. Okay, darkness, and you get a +1 rank shift to anything you're doing as long as you're having fun doing it. So just keep that in mind. If it's fun to Poke Turner, you have a chance. You have great odds. And Errol, you get the keyword freedom. And this can be used this can be used for you or against you. It's up to you. I know your character battles with control and freedom from the demons inside of you. I also know that you made that to be intentional. So whether you can kind of gauge how much freedom you have, maybe that's Drakeon, maybe he has freedom from control. You can play with that however you want, but freedom is a key word, and that should make for some interesting abilities. But it will be interesting to see where y'all go from there. It can be temporary, it can be long, but it's going to go down in the finale, whoever's there.